Welcome back to our returning listeners and to new listeners. This is Raising the Bar, a DWLA production hosted by the 2022 leadership class. Episode 5 will focus on working in the field as we sit down with Krisi Kastl, who founded Kastl Law PC to help those with personal injury claims in Texas. She'll speak to unique perspectives and the different paths of success.
Hey everyone, my name is Kiara Berry, a rising 3E evening student at UNT Dallas College of Law.
And I'm Samina Hanif, a rising 2L at SMU Dedman School of Law.
It is my pleasure to introduce our special guest, Krisi Kastl. She is a graduate from the University of Texas El Paso for her undergraduate degree and Texas Tech University School of Law, and founded Kastl Law PC to help those with personal injury claims in Texas. She is also the 2022 Dallas Bar President. With today's topic, working in the legal field, giving a unique perspective into different paths of success, we welcome Krisi. So let's get into it.
So how did you choose your current career path?
Sometimes your career path chooses you. I graduated from law school knowing I wanted to be someone that litigated cases, that tried cases in courtrooms. But didn't really know what kind of law I was going to go into. I thought about international law, constitutional law. I thought about not practicing law and mediating. But ultimately, I needed a job, and I saw bonuses based on production. And I thought, I can handle that. And so I decided to apply for a job with an office in El Paso, in Dallas, and in Wichita Falls, assuming I'd be offered the job in El Paso because that's where I'm from, and eventually I'd get to move to Dallas, and Dallas is where I wanted to be. So I applied and I got offered the job, and almost immediately my negotiation skills were tested because he posted one price he was going to pay, and then he offered me 20% less. And I immediately said, is this a test of my negotiation skills? So anyway, long and short of it is I took a job with a personal injury firm, Brian Longcart and Associates. That was my first job.
And were there any lawyers that influenced your choice?
Initially, no, there really wasn't. I was in school, I needed a job, and I passed up jobs at bigger firms where I was going to get put in a room and do a lot of research and writing, and I knew that's not what I wanted to do. So I passed up on other opportunities so that I could go into a smaller business where I could learn how to be a business owner. I did know that early on, that eventually I would own my own firm.
So how many times did you switch employers or practice areas, if at all?
I've always been a plaintiff's personal injury attorney. I've had 3 total jobs. My first job out of law school was working for Brian Longcart and Associates. I worked for him for 3.5 years, managing his Wichita Falls office. And then I worked for Philip Gallion as the vice president of his personal injury department for approximately 3 years. Both Brian and Philip were graduates of Texas Tech School of Law, and that's how I got my foot in the door at both of those firms. And then in June of 2006, I decided to open up Kastl Law, that by March of 2007 became Kastl Law PC.
Very nice. So what is it like in your day-to-day responsibilities?
Well, owning a law firm is a full-time job, and it is varied in what I get to do. I get to be a trial lawyer and go to trial and try cases, but I also get to manage people. So I have to have some HR skills. I have to have some business skills. I have to have some accounting skills. And I have to be smart enough to hire others that are much better at most of those things than I am. So as a trial lawyer, you get to kind of be an actress. You get to tell other people's stories. You also get to, interact with your clients on a deep level if you're doing your job well. And I love that. Love to get to know my clients and know their stories and find out how their injury and the collision or the crash or the slip and fall has adversely affected their ability to live life the way they want to.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of your job?
The people. Getting to help the people, working with not only the clients, but even our employees. We have great people here. They want to help people too. And really the best part about owning your own firm is getting to choose what you do and when you do it, for the most part.
What would you say is the most difficult aspect of your job?
Being the boss. There's good things and there's bad things, because when you're the boss, the buck stops with you. So while you get to choose what you do and when you do it, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do because you are responsible for other people's pay, other people's schedules. So the good things about being your own boss are also the bad things about being your own boss.
Was there like a learning curve to that, to figuring out how to be a good boss? And
I'm still figuring it out. I don't think you ever really learn. The practice of law and the practice of being a boss or manager or owning a firm is a constantly evolving role, and I'm still learning how to do that. I think because I was an employee who gave it my all. My first job, I worked 100-hour weeks, no joke, for actually not 100-hour week pay. And I chose the firm I did because I thought I wasn't going to have to work 100-hour weeks. But if you're going to be good at anything, you have to put in time and energy. And so I'm still learning, but it's great because I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. Sometimes that's not always easy. It's a lofty goal, but one we work toward every day.
That is wonderful to hear. As a woman, how did you differentiate yourself from others in the field and then rising to success as you had?
Well, I started this firm initially because it was hard to be a woman in a man's world. And to get fair compensation as a female lawyer, particularly one who was a manager and a litigator, was sometimes challenging. So I started my own firm because I wanted to make my own path. And I felt like I wasn't being respected for the work I had put in and the value I brought to someone else's firm. So I started this firm. And how did I differentiate myself? I think the first thing I did was I joined the Dallas Association of Young Lawyers, the Dallas Women Lawyers Association, the Tarrant County Young Lawyers, the Collin County Young Lawyers, and I threw myself into bar service. And of course, all that was under the umbrella, or most of that was under the umbrella of the Dallas Bar. And I found that bar service made me happy and made me feel like a better human being and helped me be a better lawyer. The Dallas trial lawyers and the Texas trial lawyers taught me how to be a better trial lawyer, for sure. And I learned how to try a case from people like Dean Boyd and learned about subrogation from people like Judy Costura. I learned how to handle voir dire from people like Lisa Blue and Charla Aldis. I learned how to run a business from Amy Witherite and try a case from Shelley Greco. So there's lots of people that I've learned along the way. And I think I differentiate myself by basically throwing myself into all aspects of bar service. And let's be clear, the signature pink helps me stand out a bit too.
Yes, I love it. Walking in here, I was like, this is awesome.
And there's very few men that, like pink. So luckily, it's kind of helped us stand out.
I guess going back to kind of those hardships that you faced for being a woman, how did you deal with that? And how did that kind of play into who you are today and how you've reached this point in your life?
Well, I think you have to work hard, and you can't graduate law school and walk in and be a partner. But when you've spent 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years showing that you can do the work and putting in the time and the energy, then at that point you kind of think, wait, what am I doing? And I am a firm believer in you should work to live. You shouldn't live to work. But when you're young, sometimes you have to live for work so that you can make choices when you get older to work less and work smarter, not harder. So I felt like sometimes I was doing the work of 3 people and getting paid sometimes as much as half of what the men were making because I had the cold, hard numbers. It was maybe a circumstance of my age, maybe my work ethic. But when I didn't feel I was being valued, after giving it my all, I decided it was time to move on and do my own thing.
With all of that, how have you kept your passion for your work?
Well, I guess let me back up a little bit. I learned a lot from both the firms I worked at prior to this, and I feel like I have a really great relationship with both firms. We are still friends. I consider them mentors. Brian Longcar, even though he's now deceased, he taught me the value of business. He and several people at his firm taught me how to settle a file and negotiate a claim and how to kind of manage the business aspect of a firm and the lawyer aspect of a firm. Philip Gunn was a brilliant legal and business mind, more of a business mind even than a legal mind. So I learned a lot from them. But going back to your question is what?
Yeah, so how have you kept the passion alive for what you do? What keeps you inspired?
Bar work, the clients, the lawyers I get to interact with, especially my girlfriends. my female trial lawyer friends, both on the plaintiff side and the defense side. I've been blessed to know lots of family law attorneys, business owners. So I think it's just the good work that most lawyers do. And I think sometimes as attorneys, we get bad raps, the lawyer jokes, etc. But what I've seen is that there's good and bad in all of us, more good than bad in most attorneys. So it just makes me happy to be able to help people and stand up for those who maybe are being taken advantage of, especially by big corporations.
Just kind of to piggyback off of that, we mentioned earlier you are the president for Dallas Bar Association. How did you get there?
I'm not really sure, except it kind of came natural in some ways. I never thought I would be president of the Dallas Bar when I first really started getting involved in the Dallas Association of Young Lawyers and the Dallas Trawlers. I kind of thought, wow, to be president of the Dallas Bar takes a lot of time and a lot of work, and I'm just not at a point where I can do that. But then slowly but surely, DAYL leadership class, DWLA president in 2011, involved for 5 or 6 years before that, helping with the judicial reception. The DAYL, Dallas Association of Young Lawyers, really was wonderful in teaching me how to manage my schedule, because the leadership class gave us a different presentation a couple times a month. Mm-hmm. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was calendar everything. Calendar your nail appointments, calendar your hair appointments, calendar sleep, calendar working out, calendar your meetings. And if there's an important Dallas trial lawyer meeting or DBA meeting, put that on your calendar and plan around it. And so I think DAYL really helped me focus on bar work. And so I went from DAYL to DWLA to Dallas trial lawyers to Texas trial lawyers. And then I just kind of naturally went to the DBA. But a lot of that had to do with the DBA does great work. Mm-hmm. They do lots of fun things. And I had 2 really great girlfriends, Karen McLeod and Laura Benitez Geisler, that were super involved. And I was like, I want to hang out with my friends. And being on the Dallas Bar Board made it easy to hang out with my friends and do fun stuff. So I ran for the board, and that was in 2013 to get on the board in 2014. And it just made things more fun. And then from there, it was just kind of a natural progression. Lots of amazing men and women and executives on the Dallas Bar Board.
So can you speak to some of the specifics of being a catastrophic personal injury attorney?
Well, what's unique about being a catastrophic personal injury attorney is that there's lots of expenses that go into working up a case. And it's mostly contingency-based work. So cash flow issues can become problematic if you don't have a significant line of credit, or if you aren't working smaller cases to help pay for bigger cases. Oftentimes there's a struggle between the clients who need this matter resolved and the actual value of the case. Sometimes cases can be worth lots more than we resolve them for prior to suit, because clients just want to be done with the litigation process. And that's a challenge, and it's a balance, because of course the firm can benefit from guaranteed money in the door. But if you can take a case that once could have settled for $500,000 and make it worth $5 million, what's in the client's best interest? So you kind of have to weigh the pros and the cons of settling this case now for this much, or settling it 1 to 5 years later for much more. Then you have to weigh the risks of trial, because with trial there are no guarantees. And if the client is willing to take the risk, then you have to make sure as a business owner and a lawyer with ethical obligations that you're willing to take that risk as well. So it's always a constant struggle to determine what's right for the firm, but ultimately it has to be what's right for the client. So, there's always a lot of back and forth, and always evaluating every case based on the client's needs as well as the viability of the case.
So one thing that we wanted to circle back around to is your mentors and those relationships. How did you find who was a mentor for you, and then keep those relationships thriving as you grew as a lawyer?
Some of the best advice I ever received was that look to your right and look to your left. The person next to you could be a judge, a boss, or president someday. Don't burn bridges. So regardless of where I've worked or what I've done, I try not to burn bridges. Lots of my mentors are my friends. I have Shelley Greco, Laura Benitez Geisler, Michael Hurst, I mean, there's so many people that are my mentors that are my close friends too. So it's easy. You want to go have cocktails? Inevitably, when we're having cocktails, we're talking about work. Let's go have dinner. Let's go to the DBA board meeting. Let's go to the DWLA fashion show event. Then we all go to dinner afterwards and talk about work and life. So I try not to make it mentorship. I am friends with people that are like-minded, and I become friends with people that maybe are not so like-minded, but we all have the same desire to help our clients and do well in our field while giving back to our community. So I find that I really enjoy being around lawyers because I really enjoy being a lawyer, but I really enjoy being a lawyer that gets involved and gives back. So while I have lots of mentors, my first professor that really took interest in me at college regarding the law was Dr. William Weaver, and he made it where I could appreciate being a personal injury attorney and see the good that they did in the world, because I'd been taught for years that they were, ambulance chasers, and maybe not, you could be more honest being a lawyer. No, you could be more honest being a carny than you could be being a lawyer, is what I've been told for a lot of my life. But then I realized there's good and bad in all of us. And there's great lawyers out there. There's really, really good people. And so I try to get involved with the really, really good ones, because there's some really, really bad ones out there too that maybe don't have the same goals that I have or the same desires that I have. And maybe they're really not that bad. Maybe they're just misunderstood. But I think you become friends. You have mentors, you have sponsors, and they can be older. They can have more experience. They can have the same experience. And sometimes the younger people are also my mentors. I learn a lot from our young associates that come to the firm. I'm still really great friends with people like Yesha Patel and Ali Fritchie, Michelle Hartman, Susan Steger, all the past presidents of DWA, Linda Suey, Stacy Glenn, Nicole Knox, Dina Denoyer-Stroh. There's just a ton of people, and for different parts of my life, they all have served as a mentor in one way or another. And sometimes I just have to call and say, oh my gosh, I have this case and this is what's going on. What would you do? Or sometimes I call my friends that are defense attorneys. I just don't understand so-and-so. What can we do about this? Well, have you called them? Have you talked to them? I mean, sometimes they just have to pull you back off a ledge. So I think you need to try not so hard to have mentors, but to become friends with people and show up in places where there are going to be like-minded people. So going to the young lawyer events when I was younger, in Collin County, in Tarrant County, in Dallas County, doing Texas Women Lawyers. I was the president of Texas Women Lawyers in 2018, 2019. It kind of fell into my lap, but I showed up at a CLE because I liked what they said they were all about. And then I got all my friends to like them on social media. And when I got them to like Texas Women Lawyers on social media, the president said, would you like to be our president-elect? I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
I was like, they're like, well, right now our president-elect, she had to step off for work reasons and nobody else is ready to step in. Could you do it? I said, sure. Mm-hmm. So I did it. So I think you just have to decide what you want and then gravitate toward people that are doing the things you want to be doing. And having mentors and colleagues that are like-minded isn't really as hard as you might think it is.
I think that's awesome that you shared it in that way. I think a lot of us, I can say, look at it from, how do I get this person to help me? Because I don't know where I'm going. It's uncharted waters. But when you put it from that perspective, think of it as, I'm just connecting with like-minded people who I can possibly learn from.
And you can volunteer to help or show up and watch them in court, yes, or help them with a brief. Because I think mentorship goes both ways. How can you help me be better at what I'm doing? At the same time, how can I help you be better at what you want to be better at? Everybody can learn from everybody. We all know certain things. Like, I love your iPad cover, and I'm going to ask you where you got that in a minute.
So as president of the Dallas Bar Association, who would you consider to be some of your mentors?
Well, with regard to bar service, particularly the Dallas Bar Association, my number one mentor, I'd have to say, is Karen D. McLeod. Karen had an untimely passing due to multiple myeloma, but Karen was the be-all, end-all bar service. She loved the bar. She loved people in the bar. But as the 10th female president of the Dallas Bar, I'd have to say that all the past female presidents are huge mentors, starting with the very first female president of the Dallas Bar, Harriet Myers. And then going through all of the presidents, we have Wanda Hunter, Christina Milton Crane, Nancy Thomas. We have Molly Steele. We have Laura Benitez Geisler, very, very close, dear friend of mine. Sally Crawford, who's just a fabulous lady, has been there through thick and thin for me for several years. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. There's Judge Rhonda Hunter, who I really got to know much better through my friends Christy Albano and the Honorable Judge Audrey Moorhead, who at one point was someone who worked here at Castle Law. She always says that I'm her boss, but I was never Judge Moorhead's boss. Let's be clear. But Judge Moorhead and I are each other. I think we both would consider each other mentors. She has mentored me, and hopefully I've mentored her. There's just so many. Michael Hurst, Rob Crane, Brad Weber, just so many. Any and all of the Dallas Bar past presidents, the board members, just really great people on the Dallas Bar Board. Lots of us have been Dallas Women Lawyer presidents, Karen McLeod, Laura Benitez Geisler, and several others. Elizabeth Lang Myers, just amazing women. They all have shown me what to do and how to be a leader. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of you, so those of you I forgot, call me and complain, but you know you're in my heart. And we have the best staff at the Dallas Bar Association, Alicia Hernandez and Rhonda Thornton and Shauna, and there's just so many great people. We have great staff at Culinaire. There's lots of friends, and that's what I mean. My mentors are my friends, and hopefully my friends are my mentors.
Wow. So just kind of looking back on all of your life experiences, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to aspiring female attorneys?
Work hard, know your worth, earn your keep, work to live, don't live to work, prioritize your health, prioritize working out, prioritize family, understand that sacrifices sometimes have to be made, but know when to say when.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this wonderful episode. We're truly so grateful for your words of wisdom.
Yes, and in closing, we would also like to thank everyone for tuning into this week's episode, and also a special thank you to the Dallas Women Lawyers Association for providing a platform for us to share with Krisi and to young aspiring lawyers like yourself.
Absolutely. Get involved in the Dallas Women Lawyers Association. It's an amazing group of amazing women, and they are going places and doing things and empowering us all.
Well, thank you guys.